Hello, everyone. Happy New Year and welcome back to the WP Café show with me, Mark Wilkinson, and with my co-host, Keith Devon. Happy New Year, as I said, into 2024. Lots of exciting things going on. So, first episode of the year. How's your Christmas holiday break, Keith? How did you get on?
Really good. Yeah, had a full 2 weeks off, if not slightly more. But I think it was full 2 weeks off. It was really nice. Over to Northern Ireland for a bit to see some family, which was good. Didn't really have to dip into work too much at all, which was really nice. Just kind of kept an eye on emails and stuff just to make sure things weren't burning down. But yeah, good. We hosted Christmas Day, so that was nice, and just had a really nice time. How about yourself?
Cool. Yeah, very similar, really. I didn't go anywhere. The weather up here in the northwest of England was it's just been awful for the last what feels like the last 6 months. It just feels like it's rained for 6 months, and I think we managed one sort of like Christmas walk, out and about around the boating lake, fed the ducks and stuff. And other than that, we were not stuck inside and we went out to the shops and stuff, but it was
pretty grim, isn't it?
The weather was just been really grim. But yeah, Christmas was good. It was a bit more chilled this year. Had hosted. We usually host Christmas Day, so it was good. But yeah, it's been good. Been a nice little break. And like you, I had a pretty much switched off for 2 weeks, which I feel like I'm saying this every year, but I'm getting better at that now. Like I just didn't really. I did check, like you said, I checked the support email just to make sure there's nothing critical coming through, but pretty much apart from the odd bits and bobs, there was nothing really, so it was good. Customers were obviously enjoying their own Christmases rather than getting on with stuff. We had a little bit of stuff because I didn't come back until it was this week. Was it my first?
Yeah, it was Monday.
Yeah. And a lot of people went back on the day after New Year's Day, so there was a few emails floating around in that sort of period. But
I had a panicky couple of days without you.
So that was good. Right. Yeah. So if you are joining us live on YouTube or on X, as it's now called, please drop us a comment. Let us know who you are, where you are. Thank you for joining us. And if you've got any questions for us during the course of the show, or if you want to have a burning discussion point that you want to raise, then let us know in the comments. We will try and get to some, if not all. So today, what have we got in store today for today's episode? So the first part is very much going to be like 2024, what's coming along, what's happening, what are we doing in terms of like maybe our projects and things. And then we've got a few bits and bobs for afterwards. But yeah, if you've got anything to chat about, let us know. Yeah. We'll get into it. So, what's in store for WordPress in 2024, Keith? Any sort of things that you've seen on the horizon that you think?
Well, I think that not that door hasn't been closed, but we're moving into that next phase of Gutenberg. Yep. So the editing and customization phases are, I don't want to say done, but the main focus on those two phases is done. And the next phase 3, is called collaboration. And I think that I could be wrong here, but my impression of this phase was basically multiple people editing the same document, like with Google Docs. You can both log in and you can see each other's cursors and like all that kind of stuff, all that kind of fun stuff. And I think that is an element of it, but actually, having looked into it a little bit deeper, it seems to be much more just about general publishing and editorial workflows.
Okay.
And that's what they're concentrating on. And you might think, what are you talking about? What does that mean? So it's things like locking down parts of the editing experience for different user rules. So you might say an author can edit the post content, but they can't change the post title or the featured image. So there's discussions around stuff like that, and like making that really granular, even to the point of like, patterns, and specific blocks can't be edited by certain rules and things. So there's conversations about that kind of stuff. There is a conversation about that like lots of editors on the same bit of content at once. That's definitely part of it as well. I'm just looking at a bit of a summary here. There's lots of workflow stuff, as in kind of like to-do lists within WordPress. So managing editorial tasks within WordPress. So this person needs to proofread this. The editor needs to come in and make sure this is okay before it's published. So all that kind of stuff, and being able to at people to say, Mark, can you have a look at this bit of copy to see if it's okay within WordPress? So you can't do any of that currently. So if you've used lots of design tools and design feedback tools, have all this stuff kind of built in now.
You can add like comments to things, and then people read them and reply to them. And then,
exactly. So it's going to be like commenting within the editor. So there's all that stuff. I like it, and I think it could be really, really useful for working with clients as well. So not just the client themselves using it within their own team, but to talk to us and say, how do I do this thing? How can I change this? Like, within the editor, and like at us, and get we get a notification from within WordPress, and everything's kept in that place. I think the potential for it's massive, and there's way more as well. So there's what was the other big one?
Just coming back to what you've just been chatting about, though, it seems very niche, very. What percentage of users are going to actually use that?
I thought that as well. Initially, I was like, this is very enterprise.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird to me that such a big focus is being put into enterprise. Like, why not let the VIP agencies run with this and build their own tools?
I've not read it, but it does sound very pluginy to me. That it's like, if you take all the people that use WordPress, I would imagine a very small proportion are going to want to do that sort of thing with it.
But there's other stuff. I think it is more useful than I initially thought. I had that same initial thought, and as I read through it, I was like, yeah, this isn't for the masses. But actually, the more I think about it, the more useful I think it could be, for us, and with our clients. Then there's things like, well, none of this has actually been done yet. I don't think. It's just experiments and conversations.
Yeah.
But there's conversations around like checklists. So you can't publish something until this, and this has been done and signed off. So like, you can't publish this post unless there's a featured image. You can't publish this page unless you put the meta description in for the schema stuff. Again, I think like all that.
Very neat. Yeah.
You still think that's niche?
I do. I think most of the sites, surely the majority of WordPress sites, they have one or two people managing them, and if that, it's just.
I think you're probably right.
Joe Blogg's making his blog, and
is that not still useful even for one person though? Like being able to set like a little publishing checklist. Like we've got little checklists for certain things we do in our business.
Yeah, and just imagine. I mean, it has something there now, doesn't it? Where you press publish, and then this other panel appears. I can't remember what it's for now. Is it? And then it's just annoying.
Yeah, it is. But that's where that useful stuff could come in. At that point, it says you haven't done this, this, and this, and this yet.
Yeah,
do you want to? Anyway, or do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I think that stuff's potentially good, but it'll be interesting. It sounds very, very difficult. Like a lot of this stuff sounds really hard from a UI and a technical point of view. And there's
based on that, you come back to the thinking about like all the things that people want to look at on WordPress for things that aren't very good and even improving. Yet we're handling all that, which is really difficult. And is it going to be useful for the vast majority of people? Maybe I am wrong. Maybe it's going to be awesome and everyone's going to use it. I stand to be corrected.
Yeah. I mean, I've been banging that same drum about every new feature that comes out. I'm like, why are we doing this when we haven't done that? Why are we doing that when we haven't done this? So, I kind of agree, but there seems to be a vision for this, and we're going for it as a project. So,
fingers crossed.
I think there'll be some really cool tools that come out of it as well, because they've obviously got to build the APIs for these things. So there's going to need to be some kind of like commenting API within the editor, And like I can imagine that then gets reused in really creative ways by other plugin developers and other tools. So I mean, I'm sure there's lots of good stuff that will come out of it anyway. But yeah,
hopefully that'd be good. I think my features that I was looking forward to in 2024, I had the admin design, and it looks like they've put that into that list that of sort of collaboration. I'm not quite sure how that's collaboration, but anyway. So I believe that the admin is the future of the admin in WordPress is going to look more like the site editor. I think that's the plan, which is nice. I think it brings it up to a very much more of a modern approach, and I welcome that for sure. But I have a couple of reservations. There's one thing I don't like about the site thing, and that you've got, how can I describe it? You've got sliding panels that constantly disappear. So you don't know where you are. You're in something, then you go back, and then you're back, and then you're back, and then you go into something. I don't know. I'd like to know where I am. Maybe it's a breadcrumb that needs adding or something. I find that, if you take the current admin menu, you click on posts and it loads the post listing screen, and then you've got an expanded menu, so you can kind of see where you are straight away. I think if we can try and retain some of that, that would be nice. That would be one feedback from me. And what worries me with the admin redesign, and they must have this in the picture, is I assume it's all React based. So how do plugin developers add menus with the traditional PHP functions? So my question is, are they actually just ditching those, or are they going to bring those along? So if I do register with PHP, it does actually work. Or maybe I've just got the wrong end of the stick, and that's not sort of happening to the admin. But so many plugins are using the old PHP plugin functions. They must have to support it, surely.
Yeah, for a while at least. I'd agree. And for a while at least, I think they will need to give people like us tools to do it within PHP. But it's definitely a JavaScript future. So yeah, I don't know how long they're going to keep pandering to the many of us that don't really want to go down the JavaScript route. But I definitely think a unified admin experience is really necessary now. It's a very, very weird experience in WordPress at the moment, going from the shiny new FSE screens to the very old clunky admin screens. So I think that really needs to be solved. I'm
on the fence. I think they're nice and new and fancy, and they look smart, but sometimes functionality wise, design can get in the way. Sometimes it doesn't have to look fun. It just got to
Don't
work.
Get me wrong. I would be very happy if they didn't concentrate on the design. I'd rather it was consistent and ugly and usable than flashy and beautiful. 100%. But I think unifying it is definitely going to help.
Yeah.
You had another thing on your list about things you were looking forward to.
I was going to put Nick's comment on the screen because he said, agree totally with the sliding UI. I hope this gets refined before launch. It reminds me of sort of using a phone, doesn't it? Where you click on an app and then panels appear and then they sort of slide across the screen and you've got to slide back again. And I think it can confuse me. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. And I suppose that is the way in which the web UI is going for most other things. Yeah. So maybe it's not as much of a problem because people will just get used to it more and more and more and more and more.
There's probably a little bit of getting used to it, but I do think there's a problem with kind of knowing where you are and how you get to where you're trying to get to. I do think there's a navigational, like a user experience problem.
Yeah, definitely.
At the moment that I really hope they do address, because it's really important. You don't want to be constantly frustrated when you're like moving around the dashboard.
Yeah, for example, if you take old WordPress, it's blatantly obvious whether I'm editing a page or I'm editing a menu. They look completely different. They have a completely different interface, whereas they don't in this one. I mean, once I sort of get into the menu, the panel on the right, it changes to the menu specific things, but what I'm actually seeing on the screen is exactly the same.
Yeah.
I've got the editor in the left window. I've got my panel down the right. And you could argue that's a good thing because everything's consistent. But I do find it is difficult sometimes to know what I'm editing. I'm editing a template part, a pattern, a page, a post. It can be a little bit tricky sometimes. And I think they've got to be careful of that when they do this work. But hopefully they will be. I'm sure they've had feedback on it. Anyway, what's Sam say? Sam says 2 questions. Are you going to WordCamp Europe? No plans to, is my plans. So that's that one. And then I haven't read this one, but I agree with Mark. Shame there's so many core things that impact a much wider audience that need addressing over such a vast project, which seemingly will benefit so few. Yeah. Maybe I've misunderstood that. Like you said, Keith, maybe there's going to be lots of stuff in here that we can all use. But from what you've just read out, it seems a lot of that is very niche to people. Maybe it'd be good. Anyway, right. My other thing on the
should we go to WordCamp Europe? I feel like we're going to have to go one of these years.
Where is it anyway?
Turin.
I was going to say that Turin.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I don't know. I've just no inclination to go, to be honest. But
I've got a bit of one. Like, so my inclination is I've never been. Like, and people that go seem to really, really love it. We haven't been to a WordCamp in ages because there aren't any in the well, there have been, but there hasn't been like a WordCamp London in a long time. There's no meetups, so I'd love to just go to a WordPress thing. And also, you and I haven't kind of got together in a little while.
It just costs a lot of money, wouldn't it?
It costs a bit of money, yeah.
A lot of money. Are we going to get what we're going to get out of it? I mean, we're going to have fun and a good time, but
we could just look at it like that and just think, you know,
business sense.
I think we would really, really struggle to justify it from a pure, like with pure numbers, but from I don't know, we just don't do that kind of thing very often. Like we don't go to places, we don't go on courses, we don't go to conferences or meetups or blah blah blah. We've missed out on a lot of that over the last nearly 4 years now, like since COVID.
I think that everyone's missed out on it because they just haven't happened, you know.
Exactly. So should we just say, forget the financials, we want to do it, but I guess you don't really want to do it, and I'm, you know, you're not.
No, I don't want to do it. No, I've no burning desire that says I really want to go, but
no,
I wouldn't mind going.
I think we could have fun.
Again, it'd
be nice.
Completely.
Yeah, it'd be nice to meet some of the. Some of the people we haven't seen in a very long time, but I don't know.
Assuming they're going.
Yeah. Well, Sam might be going, so it'd be nice to meet Sam.
Nick, are you going? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
I
feel like we should go.
Yeah, I've not been to Europe. No, I've not been to Europe. Have you been to Europe one?
No.
You haven't, have you? No.
Oh.
No, I've not been. Anyway.
Anyway.
On the list of things to think about, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Back to the things coming up in 2024, partially synced patterns was my that's the one that most intrigued me, I think, actually. So the idea there is that you've got patterns that sync but the content doesn't. So you can have a layout that you can then change globally by changing the sync pattern, but the content inside that layout wouldn't change on every page because obviously you don't want it to. Now, I tested this morning. I thought, I'm just going to have a go at this. So I grabbed the latest version of the Gutenberg plugin, and you go to the menu and you just click. There's a couple of options you have to click to turn it on, if that makes sense. And I could only get it to work for a paragraph. The doc said it would work. There was a GitHub ticket that basically said, follow these instructions to sort of recreate this partially synced pattern. And it said create a heading and a paragraph. But I couldn't find these settings on the heading block. It only appeared on the paragraph block, so maybe something's changed. And all you had on the right-hand side was basically it said it was allowing you to populate the paragraph with the value of a custom field. And you just put the custom field key in the right-hand side and said, this is the key I want to populate this paragraph with. And then obviously on the back end, it then says this paragraph will be populated with the value of custom field key, whatever you put in. And on the front end, it got replaced with the actual key. So I guess that's a way of doing it, isn't it? It's saying these particular pieces of content are dynamic. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not coming from the block. They're coming from somewhere else. So therefore, if I make a change to the block, like I set that paragraph to be 10 rem or whatever it is, or bigger, then all of those will change, but the content inside them won't change. Because they're being pulled from a value of a custom field. Now, maybe there'll be other sources that you can set those from, as well as custom fields. I don't know what they'd be, but I just thought it was interesting. It wasn't quite what I expected it to be, but
that's not what I expected.
I mean, it's probably the first iteration of it as well, so I'm sure it'll improve. But that's what it gave me to start with.
So the content in them stays the same. So it's not like I can create a pattern. Partially synced. It's not like I can create a pattern, reuse it, have different content within the pattern, and then change like the layout of the pattern. It's not that.
Yeah, it is, because the content is pulled from a custom field value.
Content is pulled from a custom field value.
Which would belong to the post where it sits, I guess.
Right. No, right. Got you.
So on 3 different posts, my custom field has 3 different values, and then because that gets placed on the front end, so that's the way in which they've kind of gone about it, which, well, it worked. I mean, it pulled the value, so maybe that's the way to do it. I couldn't see the value in the editor, though. I could only see it on the front end. But I'm sure they could improve that.
They're saving that as a custom field, so they're not saving that in HTML comments. It's not HTML.
That wasn't how it worked, but it could be, I suppose. Again, I saw an old iteration of the ticket on GitHub, and it had a drop down of source, and I guess one of them was custom field, and then it gave you a box to put the custom field key in. But the one I was using, which is the latest version of Gutenberg, didn't have the source drop down. It just had a box that said put your custom field key in here. So maybe the original plan was to allow plugin developers to put in different sources. Maybe one of those would be attributes, for example. I don't know. So you can put attributes on the block. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
But I think that is going to be really valuable for agencies to be able to do that. I think we've said this for a long time.
Yeah.
That's a problem. You create this pattern, you put it on 50, 60 pages, and then you go, oh, I made a mistake on it. I need to change the width of it or whatever.
Yeah.
Or I want to add a button as well. And then you've got to go through all 60 pages and add it. You can't do that globally. This hopefully will fix that issue. That's the plan. Anyway, that's interesting to see how that develops. And then the last one for me, actually, it wasn't really, this was something I've found and I haven't used yet, but it looks very good, is a plugin called Block Visibility, which kind of ties back into what you were saying about at the start, actually. It's from Nick Diego. It's free. I think it was paid, but I think as he moved to automatic, he's made it free. And it allows you to set loads of rules on a block that basically say when this block visible. There's all sorts of things you can set for, like, the user logged in is this user, the time is between these times, the post is in this category. There's all sorts of things you can do, and it just looks really powerful, actually.
Responsive stuff. Oh, you can only show things on mobile or desktop or tablet.
Potentially, I feel like
you can.
I feel like you can.
People use it for that.
Perfect. Yeah. So so it just looked like a really powerful plugin. Nick, it's just been Nick, not Nick who made the plugin, but Nick who's watching along with us. It says block visibility is fantastic. He's obviously used it very well. Should be in core apparently. So
I've heard lots of people saying that is one of their go-to plugins that they install on every site now, and it just has so many different use cases. It's one of those ones, right? I think we're not using it, so we find other ways to kind of get around those problems. But I bet as soon as we started using it, it'd be like, yes, right. And then you just get into the mindset of, how do we do this? Oh yeah, block visibility could do that for us, and suddenly it just opens up all these all these solutions that you didn't even know you needed. Kind of, I think it would be one of those. Definitely give it a go at some point.
It's just a mindset change, isn't it? Because we wouldn't want to burden the client with setting those rules on every block. That would be our default position 4 years ago, we'd have all those in place for the client. They just add the content. That's what they do. And it's changing that mindset and saying, well, no, the client can do all this stuff, and they probably want to do all this stuff, and we need to teach them how to do all this stuff.
And we would have built all the responsive stuff into the theme.
Correct.
Rather than, yeah.
It's just a complete mindset change of how you build websites, really.
It is. Yeah.
Lots of customers will love it. Lots of customers won't. Anyway, go on, sorry. Yeah.
I had the experience of building a website on WordPress.com. So my friend is starting up a new business, a drone business. And obviously came to me. He was like, can you help me with the website? I was like, yeah, okay. And I actually really wanted to do it as well because I wanted to take it as an opportunity to just see what it's like these days.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what tool I was going to use. So I was thinking, should I just do it on Squarespace or something? I've used Squarespace recently. It was super simple.
Yeah.
I thought, nah, I want to do it with WordPress because I want to learn more about WordPress and using it at that level. Like as a user, like a no code. Because I don't want to write any code for them. I don't want to be maintaining any code. I don't want to be doing any of that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So I thought, yeah, can I? And I thought, I also don't want to be on the hook for like hosting questions and blah blah. So I was like, right, just use WordPress.com. Means I can play with full site editing, the block editor. I get to see what the .com experience is like compared to the .org experience. It was actually pretty good. Their like onboarding workflow is quite nice. So I know like Mike McAllister was trying to do this with Ollie, the Ollie theme, but like the setup was pretty easy. And it's like, type in your name, type in your tagline, next screen, choose a design you like, and it's just like all the kind of screenshots of like the themes.
Yep.
Chose one of those that he liked, created the site, and you're straight into the editor of that homepage, and then you just start clicking it. You're using the block editor straight away, and within
editing the page or the template at that point, or do you know?
I don't. I think it was the template because you go into pages, and the homepage like sits separately to the other pages in the list. It doesn't. I think it's a template, but I don't know. And in a way, I don't care as long as it's easy to get there and edit. It doesn't really matter. As a no-code person, like thinking as a layman, that shouldn't really matter whether it's a template or a page. I should just be able to find it and edit it, and it works.
But it was in the pages list.
It was in the pages list, but like separate,
right?
Kind of like its own little item on the top. So I think it is a template still. I think I am editing a template.
But that's good then that it's in the pages list, because that's where, for me as a layman person, that's where you go to edit the homepage. You click on pages and then click home.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. I could be wrong.
And like you said, whether you're actually then editing the template or the page, you don't really care because you don't really understand what they are. So,
but within an hour, we'd set up we'd signed up, got our account, set up the website.
Was it a paid for plan?
Yeah.
That's so.
Yeah, we went for the one that allows for plugins and themes to be installed just in case I want to add something. So it's like 20 quid a month or something.
Yep, cool.
Something like that. Really interesting. He was like, oh, this all seems really expensive. He's like, 7 quid a month. That's expensive. I'm like, is it? Really?
Plus the domain, Keith, which is like £3.99 a year.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, it was. I came away from the experience quite positive about WordPress, but it still has its quirks, and we haven't really got into the nitty gritty of the site. He hasn't asked me to do anything difficult yet.
Yeah,
we basically
I had the same.
Yeah,
when I was doing some job relay integrations on WordPress.com, which we didn't realize would work at first, but they do. They're fine. I was using them and pleasantly surprised, and more to the point where a lot of we get inquiries coming, and you think, just use WordPress.com. Like, we can add plugins and themes. So for 20 quid a month, why not?
Yeah, why not?
It seems like the right thing to do for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it's high generally positive things. Things are different in .com than they are in self-hosted.org. because obviously they've made customizations and like you've got this onboarding thing that you said. And that's frustrating for me as a user of .org because it's kind of, I know it's the same, but it's not the same. So it's annoying. Yep. But if you'd never used the other one, you wouldn't have any issue with that. That's just how it is.
Yeah. And now I've got access to those plugins like block visibility. And if I want to add a fancy slider or a fancy this, that, and the other, I can.
Yeah.
And it's still within the kind of controlled environment and it's managed for me. And it's like, yeah.
It's hosted, supported.
It felt good. And it felt like, yes, I wouldn't be able to go and start from scratch and say, here's the design. I need to replicate that design. That's a very, very different problem. But we just wanted to get a website up and running that looked professional. And it does. And it was, found it quite quick and easy. But then I am coming at it with a decade of work, more than a decade of WordPress experience. So,
but correct me if I'm wrong, you could build your own design because you can upload a theme.
Yes,
and you've got the site editor to go and change it all.
No, but I mean, as like a no code.
Yeah,
you couldn't. We couldn't use it. We can't take designs from clients and build a site. Well, yeah, we could, but like you say, with the theme, we could. But
yeah. I was watching a video on YouTube from Brian Cords. I mentioned it to you, and he was recreating the layout. Someone had done a video and said it's really hard to do this in the block editor and everything, and he was sort of redoing it in the block editor, just showing how he would do it. And it's a really good video. But I do watch the video and think, the guy that had done the original video, who was saying this was really hard, was clearly using something else. I don't know, Elementor or Divi or something like that. And they were like, "Oh, we can do all this in there." And then the idea was to try and do this in the block editor, and then they really struggled to do it in the block editor. And to be fair to Brian, who did the sort of video about this, like pretty much everything was done in the block editor. There was some CSS that needed to be added to make a hover effect work on the image. It kind of like zoomed in a bit when you hover over it and stuff.
Yeah.
But other than that, everything was done in the block editor. And I just found myself watching this and thinking, like you've grouped that, and then you've grouped that inside of that, and then you've grouped that above that, and then you've set that to spread, and then you've done like that's just knowledge. Like I don't understand Flexbox. I don't really understand what's happening there. So it's just knowing that those things are available. And the guy that did the original video, obviously like me, didn't really know that. But in his page builder, he did. Like, I know exactly how to do that. It's just pressing these buttons. So I think it comes back to what we were talking about a few weeks ago about the uptake of the block editor. People aren't going to move to it until it does something better than what they already know. And at the moment, that's not the case. And it might get there. I hope it does. Maybe all this stuff that's coming with the collaboration that you mentioned at the start will make it get there. But yeah, it was an interesting video to watch, which was good.
Yeah, good stuff.
Last but not least on our list is support. So this is something we were chatting about. I think it was earlier this week or something, and we both kind of said to each other, "We've basically become a support business now. That's all we seem to do. It's just answer support emails." It makes it sound like our products are rubbish because we just get support emails all the time. We don't. We get a few.
Well, it's because the product it's like a productized service, isn't it? So we do. It's not just like install this thing and go. We do have to get involved in every single purchase. So
yeah, and I think as you were saying, you don't really like doing that. I don't mind it as much. I've done it for a lot longer, I think. So you tend to
better at it.
The word, you get better at it because you've done it for longer, and the stuff that people are asking you, you've already had other people ask you, and you probably know the answer to it. Whereas sometimes when you're starting off, you get questions and you're like, I don't know the answer to that. Or, can we do that? How does it work? And it's sometimes quite frustrating, isn't it, to get to the answer that you need?
Yes.
I think my biggest frustration with support is you ask questions to the people to try and help them.
Yeah.
And they don't answer them. They just don't answer them. I think we had one earlier this week who was getting really frustrated with us and sort of said, this not really happy with this product because it's taking ages to get it set up and so forth. And I was just like, I've asked you this, and this, and you haven't answered it. I'm trying to help you by asking these questions. That's why I'm asking these questions, to get the help that you need to get this thing working. And yet you haven't answered them, so I can't move forward. It's like, I just stop moaning and just answer the questions. You can moan at the end when we've got it working.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of frustrating. But.
Yeah, I feel like, and I think a big part of it for me is because I don't have the knowledge that you have, especially with the job relay product. So I find that frustrating because I find it difficult to find the answers and difficult to help people. But then I get frustrated as well because I spend all day trying to help people, and all it feels like I've done is piss people off even more. And that's just like a really horrible place to be. Like, I'm really trying my best to help, and people are getting more and more annoyed at me. I'm like, come on. But yeah, and they're not, like you say, they're not always the most collaborative in terms of like trying to solve the problem with you. Yeah, it's true. I think someone showed me the other day. We're going long on this episode. Who cares? Let's just go for it. It was an AI tool, and like I'm always wary of AI as like, especially like frontline support. But it was pretty cool. So this was a product, and they had a Slack channel. So they invited their customers to a Slack channel. It must be quite a kind of agency dev stroke like B2B thing. You wouldn't do that for a B2C product. But if you're targeting developers, then they're going to be on Slack or whatever. Anyway, and you just type your question into this Slack channel, and then there's a bot, and they don't hide the fact that it's a bot. It's called support bot or something like that. Replies pretty much straight away. Saying thanks, got that, just like having a think or whatever. And then it comes back with its suggestions, and it was so good. Like, the guy that was showing me it was like, it answered my question so well. And he said, I was so amazed that I went back and looked through the Slack conversations of other customers. And he's like, it's amazing. Like, it was really, really good. And they're basically, they're just training this AI on the support documentation, all the support emails that have ever gone back and forward, all the Slack conversations that are going on, and they're just training it, and it's getting better and better and better. And it's an instant first line response. It doesn't require us to finally get to an email in our inbox. It's like, bang, it's there. I'm assuming at some point it's really easy to say, this is not right. I want to talk to like an actual person. Yeah. But I do think that's the future. Like, I don't love the kind of human side of things being broken down, but if we look at most interactions in life, that is what's happening.
Until an AI can actually understand my situation and my scenario, they're not helpful. But
it can understand. It can understand it better than I can. So, for example,
exactly. So that might be good. But from my experience, I'm going to use WP Engine as an example, because as soon as you jump onto the live chat on WP Engine, the first thing it does is ask you a question, and it's a bot. I don't know if it's using AI or whatever it is. And to be fair to WP Engine, I haven't actually used that bot for ages because it was rubbish. All it's doing is searching the documentation for articles that it thinks will match what you've typed in. And my point is, I have jumped onto this chat because I can't find the answer to my question. So there's no point just reiterating all the documentation. I now need someone to understand my scenario, what's happening with my site, and try and interpret that and help me with it. So that's where it doesn't work for that instance. But maybe AI can do that. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think it can. I think those AIs can ask the right questions, like, to understand. And not only that, like, eventually, when these AIs are kind of have full visibility over your business, that they'll know they won't need to ask the customer or anything, because they'll know it. They'll know the context. They'll have to ask some things, obviously, but like, they potentially have way more access than you have, and like all the people come to us all the time. We've got a lot of customers now. We've gone from an agency where we're working with 3 clients over the course of a year to 300.
Yeah.
So that's like a big change for us. And quite often someone emails us and says, we're having a problem. And we're like, who's this person?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And like, that's not being disrespectful to our clients, and we appreciate them, but we don't remember them all.
No.
But an AI just like potentially has the whole history and context of that person and that project just like at its fingertips. And yeah, I don't know. I think that is the future. You know, if it provides a better customer service than we can, why would you not use it?
Yeah, I'm open to that.
And definitely like a hybrid approach. You know,
if you're giving AI access to your business, who has access to that business? Like, what is this AI thing? Does it belong in our business? Because, you know, if it's a Google AI or I don't know, an OpenAI, Open Chat G, you know, it's looking at other data from your business. So therefore, surely that's a privacy constraint.
Yeah, I don't know how much you can silo that stuff. Like if you build an AI like or a GPT or whatever, can you just say you can look at this stuff, but you're not sending it back up to the gods, you know? Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yes, it's super interesting. I think it's potentially something that we look at some point, maybe not right away, but and even if it was internal to start with, so that we use the AI to generate the responses and then we check them and then we send them. Like, it could be really useful for me to just like have an AI that understands like all the documentation and I can just ask it questions. But yeah,
how do you get around that? Like you said, like, because you don't know the full capabilities of job, really. I think examples of that is, you know, client asks, "Oh, can I do X?" And I think you're like, "Well, I don't know."
Yeah, all the time.
And in many ways, I am, in a way. I have to look what the code is and see how bad it is and then make it better to make it do it. And I suppose, how do you get to a situation whereby everybody knows all that, rather than just, in our case, me? It could be in another business. It could be 5 or 6 people that have built it.
Yeah. Thing is, I won't, because I've got a really, really poor memory. So I'm really fallible in that way, and that an AI isn't. Like, they have perfect memories.
I think that's one of the ways we can take our business forward is to document whatever it is, whether it's with AI or whether it's from something else. Document the processes better.
Yeah.
You know, what do we do? Because to be fair, we don't. Like, client sales email comes in, I just jump on a call and ask the questions I always ask. There's no procedure. There's no, you must ask this, you must ask this, you know what I mean? And I think that would help. I really do think that would help.
Yeah, I think
if they're integrating with this service, don't forget about these things because they're unique to that service. Ask them, you know, like a blueprint for the conversation. I think that would really help, and have that for all the sort of processes. But it's time consuming, and you've got to spend time doing it when you're doing your daily job and answering all your sport emails, and, you know, we'll have to find time because I think it'd be worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Interesting.
A few comments before we close. So I think Sam says the WP Job Manager AI support can provide code snippets not in the docs. The last time I used it, it wasn't perfect, but, you know, it's there and something to use. I've not seen that. That sounds handy.
Yeah.
And says potential step in the right direction if it understands the code repository. So yeah, I think I'll look at that. Maybe that's what we need. Something like that one can read the code.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Let's wrap it up.
Thank you for joining us, everybody, for today, for our first episode of 2024. I believe we'll be back to the regular time. I'm just going to check the calendar as I say this, next week, which is 1:30. It's in the calendar at 1:30. So fingers crossed, we'll be back at 1:30.
Yeah.
If you haven't already subscribed to the High Rise Digital YouTube channel, please do so. Like this video if you enjoyed it. It really does help us out. And we're always available on the podcast as well. If you want to just listen to the audio, Keith will be rapidly putting that out as fast as he can this afternoon.
Yeah.
Other than that, we'll see you next week.
See you next time.